Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our Friday drives here at Lawbreak Luxury Cars. Now today, we're going to do the intro on the road, because I couldn't wait to get out in this thing. It's a 2007 Porsche Carrera S. Now, school runs on at the minute, so I have to be a little bit careful, but I'm really excited to drive this thing. One, because it's a manual. It does come in an auto, but I much prefer the manual version because, to be honest with you, let's still be real here, it's way more fun. Now, let's talk about the car. It's 355 brake horsepower, flat six, of course, being the type of Porsche that it is. And that equates to about 4.7 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, which is more than enough, if you ask me, to really have a lot of fun with it. Now, there's a couple of settings that we can change, and ultimately, the first one being, most important, let's all be real, the exhaust button. And it's interesting, driving it, you can start to hear, it goes from a bit of a whine to more of a growl, and I really, really like that. It's almost like you've got two sides to this car, and one of them's this smooth, elegant car, and then the other side of it is this aggressive, growling beast that you have underneath you, and I really like that. The other side of this is our suspension button. Now, but the suspension button is really interesting because I actually feel the difference between sport and comfort. Now, that can't be said for a lot of vehicles because how many times have I driven a car where I end up changing the suspension setting to see what it does, or just because I like a stiffer suspension, it doesn't really do anything. Whereas this really, you do feel the difference, and ultimately, one, that's very important, but also when you're going on those country drives or down by the beach where we are now, you really, really feel the suspension kicking in. So as you're turning the wheel, you feel how direct the steering is because of the stiffness of that suspension. Well, when I change it to comfort, it just lightens everything up. And now I'm just on a cruisy drive through the trees, enjoying the car. Let's talk about the steering with the car. Now, with the acceleration, it's not too abrupt. We know that 4.7, it's not going to be the quickest car in the world, but it doesn't have to be. Now, with suspension on and off, and I feel the difference between both, which we've spoken about, but for me personally, the car is direct but still smooth. Now, some cars of this nature are very, very sharp, but almost too sharp. You feel like you're hardly turning the wheel. Well, I want to feel like I'm driving the car, not that I'm being driven by it. Now, typically with a rear engine car, that weight sits very far back. So from a balance perspective, whilst you're driving a bit quicker through some of the nice country lanes that you might be taking this sort of vehicle on, well, that drastically affects, particularly when you're driving on throttle. Now, you'd expect the car to sit really far back on the rear end. Well, actually, I feel like it doesn't need to. It allows the platform of the car to stay nice and stable, which in turn gives us a very direct front end. And for me, that's what I love the most. Even when I'm racing, if the front of the car and the front tyres aren't working correctly, well, then I'm not happy. You're not seeing any engineer I've ever worked with, and they'll probably say the same thing. So how does that help us on a daily drive? Well, for me, I'll notice it, but I genuinely believe anyone driving this car would notice exactly what that does. And let's say we're on sport suspension as I am now, well, it makes it obviously stiffer, but it's not just a stiffer suspension so the ride stiffer, it gives it a lot more sharpness to that front end, and the rear in turn doesn't roll as much. Now, because there's weight in the back, sometimes it can be a bit rolly, but actually it stays nice and stable. And ultimately, the more stable the car, the more comfortable the car, and the more you can get out of it. And that's exactly what this does. I wanted to stop here and just talk about some of the exterior styling. So we've spoken about a lot of the interior, the feeling of the car, but the exterior. Now, you've got a side profile at the moment. To me, that side profile is one of the most iconic views of any car from any manufacturer in the world. That 911 shape, it's iconic. I drove that 59 Carrera the other day, and that was just beautiful to drive. Well, you look at this thing,
It's white as well, sure, but you've got these beautiful round headlights, still the same back in the day, still the same in 2007, the same in 2023 as we stand here today. Well, the other side of that is this shape all the way across the top, and then that sloping back is really, really great. But also the little things like the vents coming out for the engine here, and then those dual quad exhaust on either side as well. It's just such a pretty car, and the Carrera white's a beautiful color for it. And it's one of those things where you look at a car like this and you just go, yeah, I really like that.
That's it, our latest episode about Friday drives. I've absolutely loved this thing. I've had a lot of fun with it. But you know what? I actually almost enjoy just cruising around in this car than I did trying to drive it quickly. And I think there's something to be said for that, because this thing is really fun to drive, but it is just so smooth and precise that it gave me everything I wanted out of a little manual Porsche. I think that's really, really important when you're trying to drive something like this. So as always, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram as well for all our Friday drives and everything Lorbeck Luxury Cars.